at this time, it was such a confusing, difficult time for me because I had moved from a country, like so many other immigrants, I had moved from a country where I felt familiar and safe and loved to a place where everything was alien. And, I had like weird hair. You see the weird hair there, and which my brothers insisted on cutting. I have a brother here in the front row, so I am, yes, indeed, casting guilt where it belongs, but they insisted on hacking it off by themselves. And, I had weird clothing, which my mother made, and my mother was like the loveliest, sweetest person, and pretty much the worst seamstress in the world. So she would make these horribly crooked, bad-fitting clothes, which I would then wear. And there's a whole cultural code that I never understood. You know how that is. It's like they have the right bag, they have the right shoes, they're wearing the right things, they're all taking the same lessons, and I was so far from being able to navigate those waters. So, my parents had kind of gone from being parents to being people who were even more lost and confused than I was. And I think that happens to a lot of immigrants. You have this parent-child inversion because, the kids are the ones who learn the language faster, who figure out what's going on faster, and they have to be, they have to take over the role of the parent in many, many ways. So, so I was totally lost at school and in the Western world. And at home, it was pretty much unanimously decided by my entire family that I was a complete failure as a Chinese daughter because I am incapable of making dumplings, I can burn anything in the kitchen. I melted my mother's final tablecloth, I was supposed to be sweeping the floor and they would find me staring out the window, dreaming instead, or reading a book. So I talked a lot. I still talk a lot. I talk too much, and there were so many ways in which as a Chinese girl, I was not at all what would be desired. So I was this kind of, total failure at home. But luckily, I did have one thing going for me, which was kind of like being born with 6 fingers. I had an ability to do well at school. And because of this ability to do well, this is my elementary school principal. I think I had just won the spelling bee or something. And she was really proud because I did not speak any English when I entered the school. And so because of that ability to do well at school, I tested into Hunter College High School, which is one of New York City's elite high schools. And then after that, I went to Harvard. And when I got into Harvard, my family rejoiced. But they did not rejoice for the reasons you might think they rejoiced. They did not rejoice because I was going to get this incredible education at this top school. No, they rejoiced because they would not need to find a husband for me. And they had been dreading the moment when I would come of age and they would need to convince some poor sap to marry me. And they were this is going to be the most impossible girl to get rid of under the sun. So they were she can get a job and we don't have to find someone who's going to marry her. So they were thrilled. And I have to say that to this day, when my family, when they see my husband, they go up to him and they all feel sorry for him. They pat him on the arm and they're like, Erwin, are you okay? And they treat him like he's got a disease because it's they're you poor man, are you surviving your marriage with Jean? So, it's they pity him for being married to me. So I got into Harvard, and then after that, it was really actually when I was there that I decided I wanted to be a writer. And up until that point, I had kind of I thought, whatever I do, I am not going into the arts. It's it was a struggle to get out of that working class life. And I was kind of well, I'm going to have a real job. So I had skipped a year when I entered Harvard, and I entered as a sophomore in physics. I'd already worked in 3 labs, and I was really sure that that was what I was going to do. And it was only when I was in college that I kind of thought, well, maybe I will never have to go back to the factory, and maybe I can do what I really want to do, which is to become a writer. So I graduated from college, and I like needed a day job, you know, like every other person who wants to go into the arts. And you know, the thing about Harvard people is that we are all completely compulsive. And even though we may seem like relaxed, easygoing types, you know, there's a kind of deep thread of compulsion. Otherwise, you do not have the scores to get into a place like that. So I am a deeply compulsive anal person, and I admit it. And I got out, and I was like, well, if I get any kind of normal job, I'm going to be swallowed up, and in 20 years, I will not have written anything. So I was looking for a day job, and I saw this ad in the paper randomly that said, wanted, professional ballroom dancer, will train. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and I actually have to tell you that I had tried to get a job watering plants, and they had rejected me. So I had gone in to the interview, and you know, the lady was like, you know, you have to realize you don't just water the plants. You have to pick off the dead leaves. And I was like, I will pick off the dead leaves. I am a really good dead leaf picker offer. And, you know, so I did my best to be enthusiastic about picking off the dead leaves, but I did not convince her, and she did not give me the job. So the next thing was the ballroom dancing, and I loved to dance. And as a child, I had never taken any lessons because obviously there was no money, there was no time, there was nothing like that. So in college, I had started taking dance lessons for the first time. Really loved it, even though I was extraordinarily bad at it. I was like this, you know, because anyone who has not been trained is going to be completely weird in a dance class, and I was. But I really liked it, and I enjoyed it. I kind of kept at it. I did a lot of different types of dance. So I saw this ad, and I was like, okay, I will go. I had learned a lot of things in college, but I had not learned how to dress. So I had this big, enormous sack of a red dress, so I put it on. And I had these black plastic pumps that my friends had given me when I was 16 years old in high school. And I had worn them to every single dance since. So these shoes were like peeling and like, you know, no longer black, but partly gray and like, you know, molting from their skin. So I like took these pumps and I cut off all the sticking out parts. And then I used a black magic marker and I colored it all in. And I thought, you know, if you look from a distance and you kind of squint, you know, it looks okay, you know? So I had these shoes on. I had this huge sack of a red dress on. And I had done something really crazy with my hair. I don't remember what. But it was like short. It was kind of like the legacy of the bad brother haircuts. So, you know, I had this like incredibly like bad sticking up layered, you know, 50-year-old Chinese lady haircut. And I took a red scarf, which did not match the red dress, and I wrapped it like around and around my head, like a turban, you know, to cover every bit of hair I could. And I went to the interview. So I went in, they're like, hi, you know? And actually, Charlie Wong, my heroine in Mambo in Chinatown, goes to her interview at the ballroom dance studio in exactly the same outfit. Miraculously, they said I could come back for the audition as long as I took that thing off my head. So I did that. I went back for the audition. I passed the audition, and I was allowed into a 3-week training course. The 3-week training course was actually like a 3-week disappearing course, because what they would do is like every day people would disappear, and you would never see them talking to anyone. You would just see people not be there anymore. Until one day, I was the only one left, and I thought, oh God, I'm gonna disappear too. But no, actually I had the job, and that was the beginning of my training as a professional dancer.